in studio right now here in KFAB, we have two members of Congress. And you heard me correctly, not one, but two members of Congress to talk about some of the issues impacting our community and our larger country that we love so very much. I have in studio with me Congressmen Don Bacon and Brad Wenstrup of the great state of Ohio. Gentlemen, thanks so much for the time.
Thank you.
So, Congressman Wenstrup, we'll start with you. The obvious question, what are you doing in Omaha? We love that you're here.
Well, it's not like I don't spend enough time with General Bacon in Washington, D.C., but I'm glad to be out here in Omaha with him. There were a lot of things that we wanted to see, and we've been talking about it for a while, but I was able to go over to the medical center, and as a doctor, that was very important to me. And as an Army doctor, that was important to me to see all the work that they're doing in conjunction with our defense. But one of the main reasons I wanted to come out here for a long, long time, probably ever since I saw the movie about Boys Town decades ago, which I showed to my nieces, nephews, kids, and I just really wanted to see the great works that Father Flanagan did and how he changed so many lives and how it was done. And it really combines with what we try to do in Congress, and I think that Boys Town is one of the best examples of how we can do more for others and change lives. And so I was thrilled to be at Boys Town today.
So what does that look like? What did you see, and what are you going to take back with you, Congressman Wenstrup, to tell some of your colleagues when they ask, okay, you've seen the movie, but now you've seen it in real life. What did you see? What's going so well at Boys Town?
Well, you know, one, it's really an atmosphere that it just speaks of American tradition, which is a family. And really so many of the kids there really come from broken homes and don't have the family structure that I was blessed to have. And this gave them something that they didn't have. And as Father Flanagan says, you know, there's no bad boys. It's just a bad environment. And so it creates the environment that allows people the opportunity to excel, to exceed, and to be loved, and to be safe, and to be educated, and to learn civics, and to really go on and serve our country in so many ways, and to be great members of their own families as they go forward. What I would like to do, I sit on Ways and Means Committee, and I'm on the subcommittee on worker and family support, and a lot of things that fall under our jurisdiction are some of the programs that they are able to use at Boys Town. I would love to get every member of that subcommittee out here and bring their families if they want to. It probably would do good for their families to see it as well. And do what we did today. We met with their junior ROTC. We met with so many of the students. And you know what? There wasn't one unhappy person there. Just all grateful. And they weren't props. We just happened to run into some of them, you know. So it was really amazing to see the wonderful thing. And it's not just that they know that they'll be taken care of no matter what problem they might have, and also learn how to overcome their own problems on their own.
Congressman Bacon, I know you would obviously love to host the rest of his colleagues on the Ways and Means Committee, but of course, you make two members of Congress happy from the state of Nebraska, since Adrian Smith, one of the most senior members of the House Ways and Means Committee. Now, Congressman Bacon, I know that you've talked a lot, especially with me, about how to make sure that the blessings of liberty and the greatness of America is passed on to the next generation. And I know that's a lot of what Boys Town's trying to do. And foster care is an issue that in the state of Nebraska we've talked about a lot. So I know you've done a deep dive on this. What are some of the things what is the role of the federal government to help improve the foster care system, and what can we do to provide a better life for the kids that, through no fault of their own, ended up in a circumstance like this?
Well, first, thank you for having me back on, and hi everyone out in KFAB land, and we're so proud to have Brad here, and we're proud of Boys Town, and just to be able to show the good work they do. Now, as you know, we have about 400,000 kids in foster care, and for a long time, the biggest problem we had was the transition. A lot of kids were leaving their foster homes at 18, and they had nowhere to go. They ended up homeless. They ended up being the most human trafficked population in their 20s, and so you just can't pull the plug on a child at 18. I needed help until I was 2021. All four of my kids needed some help until 2021 or beyond. That's just the way it is. You can't expect an 18-year-old to come out of foster care to be suddenly independent. So we've worked hard on transition programs to prolong some of the care they get, whether it's medical, helping to get housing, helping to get training on the trades or university. So they when they're 22, 23, we're slowly easing them to being independent. But you just can't pull the plug at 18. It just doesn't work. Now, things we're working on right now is we want to try to keep siblings more together. So we're offering federal grants to states that can keep brothers and sisters together. We find if you separate them, that trauma is even deeper. And if you can keep them together, and we adopted and did foster care, got a brother and sister, and we think that worked out very, very good. And they're 26 and 27 today and doing great. We're very, very, very proud of them. We're also working on how to help the first day of a foster kid. It's really traumatic. And so we're trying to start a program, a benchmark program with grant money that if, say, you're 8 years old and you come to the foster care, you can get 5 sets of clothing, toiletry kit, and a bag.
Yeah.
A lot of these kids come in with a trash bag. That's all they have, or they don't have anything. And so we're just trying to find a way to keep them making improvements. We want to help 16-year-old foster kids get their driver's license. A lot of them don't. They can't. They just don't have anybody helping them to do it. And then they can't get to a job. They can't go to school. And it really delays their progress. So these are just some of the things we're working on.
The aging out dynamic, I'm sure we could talk about that for hours and how to make sure that those kids get the transitional care that they need. I appreciate that, Congressman Bacon. Congressman Wenstrup, you were the physician. I know you get asked about this everywhere you go, but it's for me, it's one of those indelible moments in my life. I remember where I was when I turned on the news and saw that Congressman Steve Scalise had been shot at congressional baseball practice, and I'm going, this is the United States of America. Political violence should not be a thing that we ever have to deal with in the United States of America. And you were the physician that attended to Congressman Scalise on the field in that moment. So can you give us the picture of what that was like? I mean, this is America. This should never, ever happen.
Yeah, you're at this park in Alexandria, Virginia at 7 o'clock in the morning. You're playing baseball. You've been out there for a few months, and it's the last day of practice before the congressional baseball game, which is for charity, by the way, and it's a bipartisan event. But this guy came from Illinois, and he was determined to make some kind of hay one way or another. But really, Steve Scalise, he took a bullet for all of us, because if he wasn't there, there's no Capitol Police there, because he's in leadership, so he had a detail. His detail is undercover. They're in an unmarked car, and so grateful that they were there. But this guy had been out there for 2 months, and I had just batted, and I had headed out to center field, and I changed my mind and went down to the batting cage, which was outside the first baseline. So I was caged in, but not caged in the field. Everybody else was caged in the field. This guy started shooting from outside the fence over on the third base side, and he just missed Trent Kelly because his first shot hit a link in the fence, and the only reason he couldn't walk right in on that side is because the groundskeeper had locked the third base gate the night before. So there were a lot of miracles on this day. But when the first shot rang out, I thought, is that what I think it is? And it didn't take me long, and having served in Iraq, I served at a place where we were attacked 3-4 times a week. I just kind of went into mode. I got down, and I was able to assess the situation, and God put me in the best spot, because I could see Steve Scalise out on the field. I could see where everybody was. I saw people jumping into the dugout. Another miracle is this public park actually had a dugout 5 or 6 steps, which served as a bunker, and you can see all the bullet holes above it. This guy was heavily armed, and there were 136 rounds fired. And at one point, he started shooting down my lane, and I had to move a little bit strategically, but still able to keep an eye on things and move as soon as I possibly could and get to Steve. And I just have to say, it's probably as much as anything else is a year in combat. There's a relative calm about me, and my mind just went into that mode, and I really wasn't thinking about, oh my gosh, is this really happening? It was like, it is happening. Do what you know to do. And his injury was much more than what most people thought. And when I got to Steve, I could see his entry wound, and he had no exit wound, which told me that it went up, and he was bleeding heavily internally. And that was an awareness that nobody else really seemed to have. And so I was able to take care of him as best I could. But every step of the way, it was very much like a military operation, because he left on a helicopter, and you have to always try to get people to the next phase of care. And with the tourniquet and the way we managed him and all of that, and the medic knew what I meant, that he needed an IV and fluids pumped into him as soon as he possibly could. So Steve can live to tell the story, thank God. But it was all by a thread, and like I say, it was divine intervention on so many fronts, and God was with us that day.
Another one of those days that anybody who's my age or older remembers exactly where they were. Congressman Bacon, was 9/11, and we were just talking about this in the last segment. Matt and I sharing our reflections on where we were and how we found out that our nation was under attack. Of course, yesterday you participated in any number of commemorations, remembering the thousands of lives lost on that day. I mean, you wore the uniform of your country. Both of you did. Your reflections on that and how we continue to make sure that anybody who's younger than me. I mean, even seniors in college right now. That's the youngest person who is even alive on that day.
21 years ago.
21 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it's astounding to me, and it changed our world forever. So your reflections, Congressman Bacon first, and then Congressman Wenstrup.
When I saw the second tower explode, I knew right away we were at war. It was 6 a.m. in Tucson, and I was serving as an aide to a 3-star who commanded all of the combat Air Force bases west of the Mississippi. So he was a big deal. And that's what, and we knew, I knew we were at war. We're going to be putting aircraft on alert. I knew the rest of my career in the Air Force. I'd been in 16 years at that point, served 14 more years after that. But I knew it was all going to change because we were focused on Iraq before that and Serbia, and it was wasn't terrorism. That was not in our cross check. But the rest of my 14 years was all about counterterrorism, Iraq, Afghanistan. And we lost 2,977 people that day on 9/11. Innocent people. I don't count the murderers as part of that. And then we went to war for 20 years, and we lost 7,075 servicemen and women, and over 53,000 had some grave wounds coming out of those conflicts. And my takeaway is that there's bad people. There's always going to be bad people. There's always Osama bin Ladens. There's always Ayman Zawahiris. There's bad people. We got to be prepared. Secondly, I think we got to look at the world. World has changed, but it's changed again. Now we have China nearing our GDP, and they want to be the world dominant power in the decades to come. They state that clearly. Russia is in China, or excuse me, Ukraine. That's unprovoked, barbaric. And so we got to be prepared for the threats of today. Plus, we still have terrorism threats. And I would say the other takeaway is we came out of that unified on 9/11, and I really worry about the hyper partisanship, the hate. We got to remember, we may be Republican, Democrat, Independents, but we're still Americans first. We live in the greatest country in the world. We got to defend it despite our differences. And we can't let ourselves pull ourselves apart with this vitriolic finger point that's going on in our society. We got to do better.
Congressman Brad Wenstrup, your thoughts?
Yeah, when that happened, I was in seeing patients, and one of the staff said a plane just went into the World Trade Center. I said, man, that's weird. And I said, and then they said it was a large plane. I said, that doesn't sound like an accident. And then when the second one hit, obviously we knew. And then I thought, oh boy, here we go. I had joined the reserves in '98 because we kept getting attacked. And, we had all these little terrorist attacks, even the World Trade Center, previously in the 90s by the same group
USS
of people.
Cole, and we talked about
exactly,
this for a while.
yeah. And so I thought, if we need to go somewhere, I'll go. And then certainly it happened, and it does change your life. Probably my deployment and that experience led me to wanting to run for office. You leave a medical practice, and you leave that life and go on to serve some more, because I feel too that it's like you should go to Congress and bring some experience from something with you that matters of national importance, and certainly this was. So it does change you forever. I mean, the withdrawal, unfortunately, was very unfortunate. But, I will say this. Our troops kept us from having another terrorist attack for 20 years. Yep. I don't know if we can say that going forward, but we do have better systems in place. I think we could still do a little better than how we left things in Afghanistan. That was very, very disappointing. That was done backward, if you will, and morale in the military was greatly brought down after that event. I met a psychiatrist from West Point, and he said he had been so busy after the fall of Afghanistan. The way that we did it was really not in the military tradition and not the way you would want to do it. So that's had an effect on us now too. Look, we're going to continue, Don and I know we're going to continue to bring back that we are one America first. When 9/11 happened, I read the list of countries that had someone in the at World Trade Centers, and I went out and I bought every little flag from each one of those countries and put it in my flower box at home. Just reminded me, you just attack the world.
Yep. Yeah, and the coalition that was put together in response reflected that as well. And it's remarkable that it's been 21 years and we still continue to have these conversations and commemorate that day and the people whose lives were taken away by terrorists. And I hope that a generation now that had no personal experience with it can continue that memory, and that's why this work is so very important. Congressman Don Bacon, Congressman Brad Wenstrup, thank you very much for joining me in studio.
Thank you for having us.